You know, the strange thing about power, sometimes the loudest voices hide the simplest truths. For years, Donald Trump built a legend around one thing: his own genius. Wherever he went, on every platform, at every opportunity, the message was the same. I am smarter than everyone else, smarter than the press, smarter than politicians, smarter than history itself. The craziest part? People actually started believing it. But then comes the moment when someone decides not to play by his rules. Someone who refuses to be trolled, dismissed, or labeled. Someone like Jasmine Crockett. For weeks, the president hurled online insults, called her low IQ, dared her to take tests, and threw his narrative around like a weapon. But Crockett didn't bite. She didn't respond with tweets or tantrums. She waited, and she chose her stage. And when she shows up, it's deliberate, calculated, unshakable. Imagine the setting: a late-night studio, cameras rolling, bright lights, the hum of anticipation in the air. The host greets her lightly, joking, the audience laughing, waiting for sparks to fly. Crockett sits upright, composed, every gesture measured. She places her hand on a folder in front of her, not dramatically, not for show, just a quiet statement. The facts are here, and they are about to speak louder than any insult ever could. Trump loves humiliation. He thrives on it. But Crockett knows something he never learned. Leverage can be turned into accountability. She doesn't need to shout. She doesn't need to provoke. She simply opens the door to proof, the kind that turns bluster into reality. As she speaks, the room leans in. Everyone senses it. Something is about to break. But before we go further, pause for a second. Where are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments. This isn't just a studio moment. It's a ripple reaching everywhere. And when it spreads, the story isn't just about IQ, it's about power, perception, and the moment a single folder confronts a narrative. The audience holds its breath as Crockett slides the folder slightly closer. Her movements are calm, deliberate, like a chess player setting the next piece. The host leans forward, curiosity on his face. "Documentation?" he asks almost rhetorically. Crockett nods. Not rumors, not social media hype, a number. A number Trump had bragged about for years, but never produced. She lifts a single sheet from the folder. Bold red ink marks the page. The room doesn't erupt yet. Suspense hangs heavy. The camera lingers on her face, composed but firm. Every eye is on the sheet, every mind racing ahead. Trump's strategy has always been simple: humiliate first, overwhelm later. But Crockett flips the script. She doesn't attack, she doesn't mock. She explains that labeling someone without evidence isn't debate, it's noise. And when you strip the noise away, what remains is the truth, however ordinary it may be. The host's tone softens, intrigued. Is this his IQ? He asks, though the answer is almost obvious. Crockett doesn't flinch. The silence stretches, a quiet drum roll that builds anticipation. Then, in measured words, she confirms. The number on this page matches the claims he has thrown around for years. But there's a catch. She doesn't say it's extraordinary. She doesn't say it's shocking. No need. The number speaks for itself. And what it says is ordinary. The audience reacts, whispers, soft gasps. The host removes his glasses, stunned as reality sinks in. A decades-long claim now reduced to a simple, undeniable fact. Crockett sits poised, letting the implications land without a word of celebration. She explains the pattern. Low IQ isn't just about intelligence, it's about control, silencing critics, deflecting scrutiny, and claiming superiority without evidence. By showing proof, she's not just challenging one man's boast, she's exposing a tactic, a method, a narrative built on fear and noise, not reality. The folder, once just a prop, becomes a symbol. The camera zooms in. The page sits between history and legend. Ordinary in content, extraordinary in impact. Crockett slowly lifts the sheet, meeting the camera with her gaze. The audience waits, sensing the climax. She begins to speak, voice steady, deliberate. The number is right there, the IQ score Trump paraded for years. Not genius, not catastrophic, just average. The audience reacts, whispers, soft gasps. The host removes his glasses, stunned as reality sinks in. A decades-long claim now reduced to a simple, undeniable fact. Crockett sits poised, letting the implications land without a word of celebration. She explains the pattern. Low IQ isn't just about intelligence, it's about control, silencing critics, deflecting scrutiny, and claiming superiority without evidence. By showing proof, she's not just challenging one man's boast, she's exposing a tactic, a method, a narrative built on fear and noise, not reality. The folder, once just a prop, becomes a symbol. The camera zooms in. The page sits between history and legend. Ordinary in content, extraordinary in impact. Crockett slowly lifts the sheet, meeting the camera with her gaze. The audience waits, sensing the climax. She begins to speak, voice steady, voice steady. The number is right there, the IQ score Trump paraded for years. Not genius, not catastrophic, just average. The audience reacts, whispers, soft gasps. The host removes his glasses, stunned as reality sinks in. A decades-long claim now reduced to a simple, undeniable fact. Crockett sits poised, letting the implications land without a word of celebration. She explains the pattern. Low IQ isn't just about intelligence, it's about control, silencing critics, deflecting scrutiny, and claiming superiority without evidence. By showing proof, she's not just challenging one man's boast, she's exposing a tactic, a method, a narrative built on fear and noise, not reality. The folder, once just a prop, becomes a symbol. The camera zooms in.
As the folder sits quietly on the table, the audience begins to absorb the reality. The decades-long narrative of genius, carefully built and aggressively promoted, now faces a simple, undeniable fact: ordinary. Crockett remains composed, letting the weight of her revelation sink in. No celebration, no theatrics, just calm, measured authority. She continues, breaking down the broader implications. Low IQ, she explains, isn't just about intelligence, it's about control. It's about silencing critics, deflecting scrutiny, and creating an illusion of superiority without evidence. The room leans in. Every eye is fixed. Every mind is processing the collapse of a carefully constructed legend. The camera cuts to the host, visibly stunned. Even his usual banter cannot disguise the impact of what just happened. Social media will erupt within hours. Clips, memes, reactions, millions of people will witness this moment. But as the dust settles on the IQ reveal, Crockett shifts focus. The conversation turns from personal reputation to public accountability, from myth to method, from celebrity to policy. And that, Crockett says, gesturing to the folder one final time, is why facts matter more than hype. With the audience still buzzing, she transitions seamlessly into her next challenge, the ICE detention system. It's not enough to expose myths about individuals. She's here to demand transparency and oversight where lives are at stake. Setting the stage, ICE detention debate. The scene transitions to a congressional hearing room. The atmosphere is tense but controlled, a stark contrast to the drama of the previous studio. Documents are spread across the table. Cameras capture every interaction. Crockett stands, addressing the witness with precision and authority. "Are you aware," she begins,
that the law written by this Congress clearly states that members are entitled to enter any detention facility at any time of their choosing. Her tone is firm, unyielding, commanding attention. The witness, taken slightly off guard, nods. Yes, I'm aware of visitation and oversight responsibilities. We work every day to accommodate Congress while ensuring safety at all times. Crockett doesn't relent. Her questions are methodical, cutting through bureaucratic evasions. Correct. So the law permits access, yet myself and another colleague were required to give a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility. Why? The witness fumbles slightly, offering a vague explanation about policy and safety. Crockett interrupts, reclaiming control. This isn't about litigation. It's about what the law explicitly requires. Oversight isn't optional. It's a responsibility Congress holds, designed to protect people in custody. She draws attention to specific cases. Liam Ramos, a child previously held in the Dilley facility, becomes central to her argument. We submitted our notice, yet he was removed 6 days prior to our visit. Are you aware of the court order that released him? The witness acknowledges the order but attempts to sidestep accountability. Crockett's response is precise, referencing historical precedent and legal obligations. She draws a connection between inadequate oversight and harm. Your agency has lost more lives in detention than anyone else. This is not conjecture, it's documented reality. And when Congress steps in to conduct oversight, we face barriers rather than cooperation, holding the bureaucracy accountable. Crockett presses further, focusing on transparency and timing of facility operations. Were you the one who ordered the Dilley facility reopened under the new administration? The witness hedges, unsure of the dates. Crockett's questioning exposes inconsistencies in their narrative, highlighting systemic failures. She doesn't allow distractions or excuses to cloud the issue. Her questions are deliberate, structured, and backed by documented evidence. The audience, both in the room and virtually, witnesses her methodical dismantling of half-truths and bureaucratic obfuscation. The discussion turns to contracts, operational policies, and the responsibility of leadership. Crockett references public records and whistleblower reports, exposing failures in safety and management. This isn't a debate about ideology, she stresses. It's a matter of life, law, and accountability. Children and families deserve better than excuses and procedural delays. The broader context, legal and historical framing. Crockett elevates her argument by placing it in a larger historical and legal context. She references court decisions, executive responsibilities, and even foundational American principles. The judge highlighted the origins of cases like Liam Ramos as rooted in ill-conceived deportation quotas, pursued even at the cost of traumatizing children. Do you understand that? She asks. By invoking the Declaration of Independence and the historical grievances against authoritarian overreach, Crockett frames the discussion as one not just about ICE, but about systemic accountability. She challenges the witness to see the ethical and legal implications of their actions, emphasizing that oversight is not a privilege, it is a duty enshrined in law. Tying it back to impact. Throughout segment 2, the audience follows 2 threads. The public spectacle of Trump's IQ reveal, the real-world consequences of policy failures in ICE detention facilities. Crockett's voice ties both threads together, creating a narrative that is both dramatic and deeply informative. Her questioning style is firm but calm, strategic yet uncompromising. The segment ends with her laying out the evidence clearly. Congressional oversight rights were obstructed. Safety violations in detention facilities have caused real harm. Public officials are accountable under law, not just rhetoric.
Crockett has already challenged myths, exposed misinformation, and now turns her attention to real-world consequences. The focus is ICE detention facilities, where policy, law, and human lives intersect. She begins with a direct question. Are you aware that Congress has the legal right to enter any detention facility at any time? The witness nods, citing policies and procedures. Crockett doesn't accept vague assurances. Her tone is firm, unyielding. Yes, but in practice, we were required to provide a 7-day notice to access the Dilley detention facility. Why was that necessary? She exposes the gap between law and implementation. This isn't bureaucracy. These are children and adults whose lives are impacted by delays and obstructions. Oversight isn't optional, it's our duty. The case of Liam Ramos. Crockett highlights a specific example, Liam Ramos, a child detained in Dilley. We submitted our notice, yet he was removed 6 days prior to our visit. Are you aware of the court order releasing him? The witness acknowledges it, but tries to sidestep responsibility. Crockett cites the court's ruling. This case originated from poorly executed deportation quotas, implemented even if it traumatized children. Do you recognize that? She paints a broader picture.
Measles outbreaks, inadequate medical care, unsafe conditions, all systemic failures. These are not hypothetical risks, these are documented realities, she asserts. Her point is clear. Congressional oversight exists to prevent harm, not to be obstructed. Holding leadership accountable. Crockett then examines administrative decisions, facility reopenings, contract renewals, and policy implementations under the new administration. Were you personally responsible for reopening the Dilley facility? She asks. The witness hesitates. Crockett presses on, exposing inconsistencies in the timeline and highlighting lack of transparency. Her questions target leadership responsibility. Were congressional rights respected? Were detainees' health, safety, and legal access ensured? Were policies executed according to law and ethics? Each question exposes gaps between policy and practice, emphasizing accountability at the highest level. Systemic failures and patterns. Segment 3 also addresses systemic problems in ICE detention. Policies requiring unnecessary delays for oversight, poor record-keeping and transparency, repeated failures to ensure detainee safety. Crockett supports her claims with evidence, whistleblower reports, media investigations, and government records. These patterns are not accidental, they are structural failures that must be addressed, she asserts. Her strategy is methodical, evidence first, rhetoric second. She clearly demonstrates that lives are impacted when systems fail. Historical and legal framing. To strengthen her argument, Crockett references history and law, Supreme Court precedents, the Declaration of Independence, statutory law governing congressional oversight. She explains how the government's pursuit of quotas and bureaucratic delays mirrors historical examples of unchecked authority. This isn't just ICE policy, she asserts. It's about whether law, ethics, and human decency govern government actions. By framing the discussion historically and legally, Crockett elevates the issue beyond a single hearing. The audience sees the broader implications. Systemic accountability is non-negotiable. Transparency and public awareness. Crockett emphasizes the role of public scrutiny and media. The more people know, the harder it is for failures to remain hidden. Oversight thrives in the light. She connects congressional oversight to civic responsibility. Citizens, media, and public officials together hold institutions accountable. Transparency isn't optional, it's essential for justice and safety. Closing remarks. Crockett consolidates her key points. Congressional oversight is a legal and ethical duty. ICE detention policies have repeatedly failed to protect vulnerable populations. Administrative excuses cannot replace accountability. Transparency and adherence to law are non-negotiable. Her delivery is calm yet commanding. Leadership is not about controlling narratives or hiding facts. It's about ensuring safety, lawfulness, and justice. Anything less is a failure of responsibility. She pauses, letting the audience absorb the gravity of her words. Every sentence reinforces the central message. Facts, law, and accountability outweigh rhetoric, delay, or deception.